Mr. Kunle, can I take over now? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Busayo. I'm a doctor. I love arts, clearly. That's why I'm here also. But I'm very excited about today. We have lots of creatives. I love to meet creatives. I feel like, oh, these are the, superhumans, people who've got this, creative thing. But yeah, I'm really excited to meet everyone. I've met Victoria 2 days ago and I've really learned from her. And honestly, I'm so excited about, hearing from everyone else here. I would start just the way Mr. Kunye has, asked for us to start. So we'll start with Mrs. Gbemi, Alao, Abimbola. I'm very glad to have you here, ma. Good afternoon. Can we get to know you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Good afternoon.
All right, Mrs. Gbemi, tell us a little about yourself. Tell us about the work that you do.
Okay, well, again, how long have I got?
We've got 20 minutes. Yes, so all of the questions should be about, within 20 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. Awesome. So good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to be here and I'm excited to meet you all. My name is Abimbola Alao, and I'll start with my background. I'm the first of 4 children, was born in Nigeria, schooled in Nigeria, and about 33 years ago, I think, was when I moved to the UK. Now, my parents worked with the Nigerian telecommunications, but my dad never invested in a television set. So from a very young age, they introduced us to literature. I read and I told stories to my sibling. When I was in year 8 in Nigeria at that time, it was Form 2 because they used the form system. One of the readers in class was a book called Abimbola by Jean Jacobi, a French author. When we used the book in class, and that was the time I decided I will be an author, I will be a teacher, and I will be a storyteller. And that was imprinted in my mind until it eventually came to pass. Books, I love books. So I trained as a classicist to start with, and then did my teacher training in the UK. I teach creative writing at the university, and I write, but my journey changed because of a particular event that then got me into dementia research. So briefly, that's my background. I've written books in different forms and genres, and I perform stories, and I'm also a dementia researcher.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Abimbola. That was actually interesting to know, I was actually going to tell us about your childhood, but you've taken us, a little about it. Do you mind sharing a little bit what inspired your interest in dementia, that research, and how you tell your stories? Do you mind telling us a little about that as well?
Okay, so I was minding my business, teaching. We have 2 universities in Plymouth in the UK, Marjon and Plymouth University. So I had taught at Plymouth University many years ago, but then got a permanent position at Marjon as a creative writing lecturer, and I was just minding my business. Something happened in 2010. I visited Nigeria, and I told my cousins I was going to visit my uncle, and they said, no, sorry, you can't visit him. Why? I always visit him when I come home. They said, unfortunately, he's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So the family was very protective of people coming into his space. I couldn't see him, I couldn't visit him. But that got me interested, because before then I only heard about dementia maybe on radio, television. I didn't think it was anything I needed to know. So I was just carrying on with life. But that changed my journey entirely, because I then wanted to find out the intervention. What can we do to help? That was when I found out that there was no drug. At that time, there was no drug that did anything for people with dementia. For BPSD symptoms, there were antipsychotic, but it gave more problem. But I didn't give up on my search. And then I found out that there are researches that have looked into non-pharmacological approaches to dementia care. Even though people with dementia, it's a chronic disease that doesn't seem to have any treatment at that time, apart from the antipsychotic and a few other things. There are interventions, especially with behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia. Those are some of the very bad symptoms that when you talk to carers, you see how disturbed they themselves are. But nothing actually touches it. But art, intervention of art, has a way to, I call it intervention, and I call it intervenes in the lives of these people. And I'll tell you why. Well, at that point in time, because I've done all this research, I began to develop a program which I eventually called Story Weavers for Dementia. So it's a kind of, gentle exercise to start with. We go into music, we go into storytelling, we go into games and different things. So that was in Plymouth. And one day I got a call from the Alzheimer's Society in Plymouth saying, we want you back in the memory cafes. I said, why? They said, these people you worked with, it's never happened. They asked for you. They actually asked for you. And I said, well, if you want me to come back, set up a proper program that has the kind of longevity so that we can do the work properly. So in answering your question, that was how I got into the field of dementia research. And from then on, other things developed.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Honestly, I feel like, thank you so much for sharing. Projects like that have like sentimental, there's something sentimental about it because it's personally affected you, and definitely it means that it's something you're passionate about. So yes, I truly, truly appreciate that. Do you mind telling us a little more? I know you spoke briefly about story weavers for dementia, but do you mind telling us like all the medias of arts that you put in place? I've heard you say storytelling, painting, just exercises with these people. Do you want to tell us a little in depth about some of the activities that you do?
Okay, so the first thing was that at that time, people were not using storytelling for people who have dementia because they feel if you have dementia, you can't really remember stories, you can't engage. But I came from this premise that even though you're losing the brain cells and you can't remember things or you have dementia, does it mean you've lost your creativity? That was the main question I started with. And I didn't answer the question. The people answered the question because nobody was using storytelling. You have dance, you have every, visual arts, everything. And people do engage with that. But with storytelling, but I'm a storyteller. So I took it out there. And of course, I failed woefully initially because I was going there as a performer, because I was using the platform like I use any other platform. So I had to take the research back drawing board and say, no, there must be a way. So I heard about a program that uses storytelling to engage people. And I got involved in the program, but it still had its shortcomings because it was just storytelling, no other thing. So I then did what I did when I was asked one day to work with children. I did used to do storytelling with 3-year-olds or 2-year-olds. So that day I went to perform, nobody was listening. So I grabbed my drum and I involved everybody. So I thought, let me use that. So what I do is I don't go as a performer to a person who lives with dementia or to a group of people who have dementia. I go as somebody who facilitates. So I know that as a writer, if I want to write a new book, I'm not going to regurgitate my last book. No, I will go and recreate a story. So I say to them, I'm not here to perform. We are here to create stories. So we use prompts. We bring prompts for the people, and you ask questions, open-ended questions that will prompt the story. Where is this? What's the setting? And so we create a story there and then, fresh, new, not a story that I come to perform so you can remember to also perform. No, that's very different with people who have dementia. But they engage. because we've been trained on how to engage people. The carers want to join in, but there's a way I avoid them so that I hear from the people who have dementia themselves. And so the story is being created fresh. And when we've created the stories, we celebrate and then we launch. So that's the storytelling aspect of it. Every story becomes a new story that was created right there and then. Then the music. Research shows that if you go and perform music to people, it doesn't do much for them when it comes to cognition, when it comes to alleviating stress or BPSD. But if you create music with them, get them to create music, then some research shows that they find certain activities, even in the brain, that shows that people are engaging. And so when I take the musical instruments, the percussion, some of these percussion they've never seen, maybe, the djembe drum or, shakers, and then we create music. So I'm there telling them, I am not here to teach you some rhythms that I brought here. We will create rhythm. So I could give somebody an agogo bell, and I say, please, can you lead us? So the person just start bashing something. Then I tell others, listen and join in. Listen and join in. So everybody listens and adds to the music. And before you know it, a brand new music is created that we also celebrate and give to the people. So that engages people rather than being the performer who performs to them and for them, and they sit down and listen. So every program, we have brand new story, a brand new music, and then we come to gentle exercises that with music. So that's the program in a nutshell. I hope that answers the question. I don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. Honestly, I've just, picked a whole lot from you now. So it's not really about what you give to them, it's more of how they interact with it and how they engage with it and also produce something from it, which is honestly very, very smart, because then their creative side comes out. I feel like, generally, even as a doctor, people tend to overlook that there's still something left, there's some virtue left in them. So yes, your exercise would definitely, help them to just express themselves in some way. So thank you so much, Ma, for sharing. Thank you so much. A little birdie also told me that you're a wellness coach, but I think honestly, I can tell from everything you've said. All of these things that you've told us just now, it's just how it's honestly wellness, is well-being, which is wonderful. Thank you so much, Ma, for sharing all of that. It was really lovely hearing from you. I think we're going to go on to Victoria Ashadu now. Victoria and I met a few days ago, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear from Victoria as well. So yes, please, Victoria, ignore me. Can you tell everyone on this call about yourself, your cultural roots as a Nigerian-born British person?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be really difficult to ignore you, Basaya. So hi. and and what Abimbola was sharing just now really resonated with me. I love that. I love that you recognize the agency that people with dementia have, and you're not going there as an expert, but you're going there and you're respecting and honoring them. So I think that's amazing and beautiful. Yeah, a little about myself. So I'm Nigerian, obviously. I was born and raised in London. And my background's in law. So I'm the eldest I'm the eldest child, and I have a brother and a sister, and I have a half sister as well. And my parents, my dad was a banker, my mother ran a restaurant, and I studied law. I actually went all the way. I trained as a barrister, and then I worked in a law firm for a bit, and then I became a mother, and motherhood became far more important than anything I've ever done, and it's the best thing I've ever done, actually, being a mother. It's something that I value. And so I was working in a law firm for a bit, and then I had some personal problems, and a friend of mine, one of my dearest best friends, said to me, Victoria, you're going to need a creative outlet for your anguish. Those were her exact words. And I didn't have an art background, never done any art. I sort of went into the corporate world, that sort of thing. Didn't think I wouldn't have called myself an artist, you know. I knew I liked photography, but that was about it. So I found a place in London where they were doing 2 hour a week art classes, and the program lasted for 5 weeks. And so I started going to that, and that really held me together. It was the glue that just held my life together, and it was really grounding. And I found that when I wasn't in the art class, it was on a Wednesday evening. When I wasn't, no, it was a Thursday evening. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So when I found that when I wasn't in the art class, I was thinking about it, and I was looking forward to the next lesson. And when it ended, I kind of felt like, oh no, I need more of this. It became quite addictive. So I started Googling art therapy. I'd never heard of it. I didn't even know that that was such a thing. Started Googling it, found that there were a few providers that where you can study as an art therapist. And I didn't actually fit any of the prerequisite to become an art therapist. I don't have a background in art. I don't have a background in psychology. I didn't have a background in teaching, any of those things that they required. But I applied anyway because I don't like no. So I applied anyway, and I got called for an interview, and they said bring a portfolio, and I was thinking, what on earth is that? So I put some stuff together. I went for the interview. And they actually said to me, we don't usually take people who don't have these prerequisite, but you've got potential, so we'll give you a go. And that was it. And I trained as an art psychotherapist. I didn't become an art psychotherapist to become an art psychotherapist. I just wanted to get into my head and figure out what was going on in my life and my patterns and those sort of things. So I trained, I became an art psychotherapist, and I started doing workshops for women, young people, and I found that people really engaged, and it just made a huge difference in people's lives. And I just decided that this is what I've called to do, because it makes a huge difference. And so that's my story. That's how I got into art therapy, and it's just been an amazing journey. I'm still learning, I'm still growing. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for sharing. I feel like it looks like it's not yet confirmed. I mean, until we're done, it looks like everyone's, entry or, launch into the arts space is somewhat personal, which is wonderful. It means that, we're also, getting some form of, comfort, or just you're feeling relieved that you're even providing this service to others as well. So it's wonderful to know that your own story, stemmed from a personal need, which is great. Do you want to tell us a little about the work that you do currently as an art therapist? Do you even still practice law?
No, I don't practice law. No, I don't practice law at all now. I feel like that, that door's closed, although I still, if I need to, then I'll activate that part of me. But it isn't something that art is far more rewarding. Art therapy is more holistic, because you're looking at an individual from a holistic perspective, whereas law is incredibly powerful as well, but it's very segmented. So somebody comes to you and says, I want a divorce. You will deal with the divorce. Whereas an art therapist, somebody comes to you and says, I want a divorce. You will look at the pattern. You'd look at why, what's brought you here. Let's go back before we go forward. Let's see what your patterns are. Let's learn from them so that you don't make the same mistakes. what I do on a daily basis as an art psychotherapist is that art is the tool that the clients use to communicate, you know, feelings and thoughts and hurts and traumas. Sometimes certain things are just so difficult to vocalize, especially if you've been through a really traumatic experience. Sometimes even children, especially children, find words difficult to kind of articulate what it is that they've experienced, right? When you give people materials to just create, you're not diagnosing them, you're not interpreting what they're bringing into the space. You're an observer. As an art therapist, I'm an observer. I'm privileged to be allowed to share that space with the people I work with. But I provide materials, all kinds of different materials. They come into, you know, the room, into the space. They pick what materials they want to work with. And I just sit and I observe them put marks on paper or canvas or whatever, you know, whatever they're working with. And when they're finished, we have a discussion around the art, around what they've created. And that's non-confrontational. You're not directly asking people, so, you know, what is this you've made and why, you know, how are you today and who's hurt your feelings? You're not doing any of that. You're allowing the art to speak, and you're allowing the client to voice what they've created. And that's where you start to have a dialogue. And art is a very sort of unconscious process. You know, when you make a mark and you create art, you're bringing your entire history onto that canvas, onto that piece of wood, onto whatever you're creating, without even realizing it, because we are unconscious beings. It just flows out, you know, and everything is communication. Everything is even when you're quiet, you're communicating. And so when I make art, we talk through what they've created, and then we start to build a picture together, and solutions start to come. It's incredibly empowering. So that's pretty much how I work. I work collaboratively with people I work with, so it's a joint space. I always tell people that I work with that I'm not the expert of their lives. It's your life, so you're the expert of your life, and I'm here to hold the space and to observe, and it's a privilege to be allowed into that world. So you've got, you know, I have to respect and honor them. And but yeah, the art does the talking, and it's incredibly powerful. And you know, you don't even need to have an art background. As you can see, I don't have an art background, but it's something that I'm starting to grow into. And I, you know, started making art myself, but it wasn't something that I was born, you know, I didn't start off that way. It's, you know, it's mind, it's heart on canvas.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. If there's one thing I'm hearing from you right now, is the fact that, you know, you don't necessarily need to be professional at it, right? You just need to have the interest, and this is a way to, you know, get people to express themselves, which I find as a very, very powerful tool, because, you know, especially like people with maybe, for instance, like an autistic child who would probably be maybe not very comfortable to communicate or maybe speak, you know, any of those things. By giving them a canvas to literally just, you know, paint an expression, that's actually a wonderful way to, in fact, just, you know, communicate, penetrate someone, and actually say, okay, this thing that you painted, like, how are you feeling with it, you know? So I think that's really wonderful. Well done. Do you have any projections for your work, maybe in the near future in the UK or even Nigeria? If that's something that you're thinking about, do you have maybe plans for an exhibition sometime? Maybe collate all the works and anything like that?
Oh, I have started making art, like my personal art. I have started making personal art, and it's once I've not been that consistent this year, to be honest with you. I made little bits, but not as much as I'd like to. I'm sort of giving myself a bit of time to create more headspace so that I like to work on big canvases. I don't know what it is about that. I like big canvases. So yeah, at some point I would like to make art that I can display. But what I'm really interested in doing is I love working with young people, um, because young people are so intelligent, and I feel like they don't get the credit that they deserve, and they are the future game changers, and if we can work with young people to help their mindset, because mental health is rife, and I feel like I'm in this space, and that's something I want to do more of, is use art psychotherapy as a space to kind of help people, particularly young people, gain an education into our history, Afrocentric history, our real history, and not what we've been indoctrinated with, so that we can start having those dialogues. And I feel that that's the sort of thing that gives young people a sense of belonging, a sense of power, when they know who they are, their history and where they're rooted in. And then they can, that's a great springboard to then go off and do great things and help other people, and then sort of have that ripple effect. So that's a space that I really wanted to occupy with my work, and then the art making and displaying that will come naturally. But I just feel like, this is a space that I want to occupy, using art to support young people to ask questions, not just accept whatever we're told, but to ask questions and be critical about those questions, and be allowed to ask those questions. So yeah, I feel like art is a really important way, and non-confrontational way, to sort of do that kind of thing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. I totally agree with your, Afrocentric approach. I'm going to divert just a little bit. I saw Ken smiling when you talked about big canvases. Ken is a multidisciplinary artist. So do you mind telling us a little about yourself as well, and actually why you were smiling at the big canvases?
Hello, it's great to meet you, Dr. Abimbola and Mrs. Victoria. God bless you for all the conversations. I really learned a lot. I'm new in art and medicine and kind of combining them together, but I grew up in a household where my dad was a medical doctor and my mom is currently she's working in the National Health Insurance Scheme in Nigeria. I'm Nigerian. I came to London 3 years ago, and since then I've been here. I've been doing art. How did I start? I studied engineering at the University of Lagos, and during my second year as a civil engineer, uh, I used to sketch jokingly, and my friends caught me reading at the time, and they told me, "Oh, leave what you're reading, come and see this incredible artwork that some guy is doing somewhere." And I went to see that artwork, and that was it. And I got obsessed. I was intrigued. Like, how do you draw something so real? And and you had so many people around this person. And so for me, that's how the interest came. And I've been researching, and I kind of fell deep into art. When I'm in class, I'm thinking of the next work to paint. When I'm anywhere, I'm thinking of the next work to paint. And so after my studies in the University of Lagos, I finished engineering, and since then I just jumped into art. So I never practiced engineering. I think I just gave my dad the certificate and just kind of continued. Uh so fast forward to last 2 years, sorry, I got a scholarship to study at the Royal College of Art here in London, and I'm done now with a master's in painting. And it's just that move of that journey of discovering who I am as an artist and discovering that this is really my passion and this is where I want to be. This is the kind of environment I want to be. And coming from the conversation with Mrs. Victoria about big canvases, it's actually a big is something. There is a feeling you get when you make big canvases. Well, as opposed to the small ones, and it's almost like you're entering into the canvas because it's big, so you're entering into the space, and so I could relate to her when she said big canvases, because that's the reason why I got a bigger studio, because I couldn't make a big enough work. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have a big canvas online that we can all paint on today. Thinking we need something interactive today, but I'm just thinking, and I'm winking to Mrs. Abimbola if she would like to take us through a storytelling part, because I still have some questions for her, but you know what, we'll come back to that. So Ken, tell us, thank you for that introduction. Actually, so amazing how you can just transition from engineering to arts, and you're doing so well at it. Well done. Anyway, tell us a little about, what genre of arts you actually produce. What kinds of arts do you actually, work with mostly?
Yeah. That is so easy. It's so easy to know that you can transition. It wasn't easy. Because some
It's
things
wonderful, amazing to see how you've just smoothly transitioned. Oh no, I know.
yeah, it wasn't that was what I'm saying. It wasn't smoothly.
Oh,
Uh I think now
you make
if
it sound smooth.
I think now if someone says in Nigeria, I want to be an artist, there is some form of consideration. There is an open space for the person to want to test it, and for the parents to want to accept that decision from the kid. But when I went to be an artist, which was say 6 years ago, it wasn't an easy journey. It took me a lot of pain and suffering to kind of get to this point. And when I say suffering, I mean like I didn't have anyone who believed in what I was doing. I didn't have money. I didn't have anyone who believed it. So it was just the strong desire to want to do art. So of course I finished engineering. So my parents couldn't see the reason why I'd leave engineering and do art, because art wasn't at that time giving me money. So they just thought I was going insane. But I could see the vision, I could see the desire in me. Every time anything I did, I was thinking of the next art to make, so I just felt like this was where I stood. And why I say I'm a multidisciplinary artist is because I like to work, I like to create. Many people do works on canvas, many people do sculptures, but I like to do everything. I like to sculpt, I like to paint, I like to do installations, I like projects like the one I'm having with the hospital rooms. I like to collaborate. I love playing with sound, playing with video. I'm video director as well. I'm a photographer as well. So just basically telling one story or theme with different mediums of art, or different genres of art, basically.
That's wonderful. That's actually wonderful. Thank you very much. That's actually exciting. Are there like particular themes or lines of work that you've, interacted with? Like we've spoken to Mrs. Abimbola, who has done some extensive research in dementia and done some work. Is there any particular areas that you've, channeled some of your works to?
Yes, my works are a reflection of my experiences. So if I'm in Nigeria, I'm talking about um, my experience in Nigeria, which is at that time was police brutality and all of those things, where I come out from the house and then I end up in prison every day for no reason, because of my hair or because of the fact that I'm a visual artist and people don't understand that, you know. But now it's about migration, because I just came to the UK, and to kind of settle myself in the UK becomes a really big problem, you know. So, you know, trying to feel at home in the UK, trying to build a community in the UK, all of that, it feels like you're starting all over again to build a sense of belonging. And so my work is now kind of centered around belonging, home, and migration, because that's what is basically happening in my life right now.
Mm, Wonderful. Honestly, I can really, really relate to what you're saying, because I'm also new here. And, I find that, there's struggles, even though it seems like you're in a whole new place, there's also a whole new list of challenges that you have to
Yeah.
face so that you fit and just feel at home, like feel like you're not out of place.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So you said you've done more work about, migration and whatnot. Um, is it in like video making or like paintings, or do you have like artworks that you've just dedicated and named? Do you want to maybe tell us about one or two of like your things that you have produced?
Yeah. There's this
Migration.
popular one, which is
Great.
called Journey Mercies,
Okay.
and is an installation of boxes. I made over 200 boxes, cardboard boxes, and I painted my friends, people I met in London, who came from different parts of Africa. I painted their faces on the boxes. And the reason for doing that is because when I came to London, and I started to order some art materials and some things in my house, they came in boxes, and different from Nigeria, where they will come in like a plastic bag, or you just get delivered the stuff, or you have to go there to buy it. Amazon always, even the pencil comes in a box. So the box was, and when you come out of your apartment, you're going on the roadside, you see boxes on the roadside. So boxes kind of started to play in my head. And I started to think, where are these boxes coming from? The boxes are actually migrating, they are moving around, you know? But then there is this kind of dehumanizing context of the box. You know, the box carries an item of value, but when the item of value has been removed from the box almost feels value, like has no value in some sense. And when you think of migration and immigration and people who come from different parts of Africa, we all come with items of value, which people don't really understand, that there is there is there is there is purpose in our journey. You know, we're not just coming to your places to take your jobs or take your women or something like that, but we're coming to a space to share culture, to share ideas, and to share that item of value, and take also build that item of value that we have as well. And so what I did was I was trying to make a statement with these boxes. These boxes are moving around. These boxes are, journeying, and they have different colors. So the boxes are very colorful. So they kind of feel like an African fabric when you stack them together. And when you stack them together as well, it feels like a community, because each box is staying on top each other. They are staying on top on each other, which kind of feels like support. When you see the migrant community, and you see the support that comes in being part of the migrant community. So the work was it wasn't telling you what migration was. It's not telling you, how to solve problems or how to solve all of the issues that we go through in migration, but it's just projecting migration to you. Like, this is who immigrants are. This is how we've been dehumanized. This is how difficult, being an immigrant is. We almost feel like boxes. We are kind of contained in a box. And, sometimes the item of value is taken out of the box, and they see the box as kind of as they see the box without value. So I was just kind of making that statement. I'm making a statement of myself as well. I I was working with some people, and we had made huge amount of money, and they came with a whole bill of things that that's the image, and but that's the sculpture. If you go to the next one, that's when you see this is a sculpture. No, if you go there, those are the boxes. And so what happened was I was working with these British friends who I called friends, and we made a huge amount of money. And when they realized that, oh, we are done with this guy, I was messed up, in that process. And that kind of inspired me to kind of make this work about migration. Like you become valuable till you've given everything you have, and then they want to deport you, or they want to chase you out of their country and stuff like that. So it was just a representation of my journey as an immigrant, and also a representation of many other people who have also migrated out here from Africa.
Oh wow. Oh wow. That's amazing. I've honestly, thank you for showing this slide, Mr. Kule. I was also looking, checking the work and saying, okay, these boxes, let me see.
Yeah.
Very colorful as well. Thank you so much. What do you think? What were the responses to this arts? Did you hear any responses back from people who came to see these things? How was
Yeah, if the boxes have shown in 5 countries now, and I'm having a show in Berlin, Germany, and the boxes are moving to Germany as well. Many people have come forward. Like it's something that is very relatable, so relatable. Many people have come forward to say they connect with the work. They've also even given me more ideas of what the work kind of feels to them. Many people have said they, because of the boxes are moving, and I haven't really sold any of the boxes because that wasn't the plan to sell them, because they kind of carry information of people, specific people, the faces of them, the names. I put the names inside the boxes and their age and some information about them, and they carry this information. But because of the moving around, you could see that some of them are started to damage in some way, some cuts or some tears or some stains. And you think of migration as well, and you think of us moving around, as Africans, we kind of, there is this, I don't know, there is this pain that comes from migrating. Like I'm trying to get my German visa, and it's just been a whole lot. And the gallery can't even understand it, because everybody who does an exhibition there easily gets there. But for the first time, the gallery has to deal with, somebody actually applying for visa because of my passport. And when you think of journey and movement, you see that every journey we take kind of takes away from, from us, whether it dents us, or we have a bad experience, or we have a bad story about that journey. But that journey, becomes really tough for us. And so the context of the work kind of, and someone told me that, and I saw it, and I was like, that's incredible. So many people have all come through to say, oh, I relate to this, I relate to this. Oh, this person looks like me. Oh, that means I'm the person in the box. And even aside just Africans, I've had many of my British friends, American friends, who also relate to the conversation, because them to migrate as well. Everyone migrates in this world. And in every migration as well, you have things like that. You see you have even, the forced migration as well, which is one of the things I'm also trying to talk about. People in IDP camps, people, refugees, without knowing where to go or where to belong. All of these conversations is very important at this modern day time, at this time. And that's kind of thing I want to talk about in my work.
Wow, wow, that is so profound. That is very profound. I didn't even realize the extent of this until you started telling me about the wear and tear of boxes. And I'm like, wow, like these boxes literally almost represent we as humans, and all of the stress that we go through with migration, which is going to make me, divert to Mrs. Abimbola. Just to, hear a point of view about, migration, the way that we, how it affects us as immigrants in a new space, and, how maybe the arts have helped to, just cope a little better.
Yes. Thank you so much for your presentation, Mr. Ken. Is it?
Yes, ma'am.
So profound, and so it makes you think deeply. My migration happened over 3 decades ago, but the story is always there for every migrant, whether you're migrating into Africa or out of Africa to the US, everywhere. The first thing is the idea of where is home? It's always a story you have to battle with. It's always something that goes on at the back of your mind. Where are my people? So eventually you begin to make yourself understand that everywhere is holy land, and wherever you find yourself is home. I remember somebody asking me, oh, one of my British friends saying, oh, when are you going back home? And I'm thinking, I left at the age of, I was just in my 20s, and this is where I've built a community. I don't even have many friends. Where is home? So where art comes in is when, there's something about how the mind tells you stories. And research is showing that the stories that we tell ourselves actually impact our health, whether it's mental health or any other health pattern. And so where art comes in is, what do you now do with your time? Because would you rather get yourself deeply involved in the horror stories or the negativity that's happening around you, whether it's discrimination or the part I love most is about going around with the boxes and you get dented one way or the other, something happens, you can't get a visa because of your passport. These are stories, but how do we allow these stories to affect us? Life has to go on. And so I go into the art to give meaning to either my space or my situation. I'll give you an example. When my children, I've got 4 and they've all flown the nest. And so we decided, we'll explore the UAE. So we came here and I decided I wasn't, going for lecturing because it takes a while to get into the university. I'll just go for teaching secondary. And I got a job. But then COVID started. I was away from my family. Everywhere was closed. I couldn't go there. So now, gradually, the narrative of what's going on around the world was creeping up on me. But I found an outlet through art. So I began to explore the different emirates in the UAE, and I began to write. You see, it's like you go out there. What poets do? I teach poetry. But it's the first time I'll write a collection. So I was going around looking at beauty, and then it's almost like I'm using my eyes as my camera, and then come back home to write. I had to write at that point. Otherwise, there was a lot of things happening, and I could easily go into anxiety or panic. So that writing was a way, an outlet for me. One, as an immigrant in the desert, and because certain things are happening around the world, that's how I use art to make sense. And I was writing. So the fact that I had something to focus on to create this work, and I knew it'll be published and many people will love it, it gave me a distraction. And then there was healing, because rather than going to, the body starting to play its part in the negative narrative, I was creating art. So I created this beautiful desert haiku, and it was published. Last year we did a launch, and many people are making meaning from it. So this is where art comes in, whether it's visual art through, I always envy visual artists because I really don't draw. I create baskets, but I love, what's it called, painting and all that. But art is a very powerful medium that we can use to move ourselves out of negativity, or even to bring beauty into the world. I hope that makes sense to you, the way I've put it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mrs. Abimbola. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Honestly, I'm learning a lot, because I feel like it's time for me to start, harnessing on the artistic things around me, even like the barest minimum, like Victoria told us yesterday, just find joy in the little things around you, which is what Mrs. Abimbola has touched on again. Just find a creative way to express and just enjoy your new space, make it feel like home. Thank you so much for sharing, Ken and Mrs. Abimbola. I will come back with more questions because I want to still, talk about some of the work. Mrs. Abimbola, I hope you're getting ready with a storytelling practice for us. Anyway, let's go ahead to introduce Garley Tonye Briggs, also known as GiGi. I know she's around now. And GiGi is a choreographer, a fitness and health coach. She's also a business consultant, and she's a Global South Arts and Health. Oh, she's a business consultant for Global South Arts and Health Convoy. Thank you for joining us, GiGi. Do you want to tell us everyone here about yourself and what you do?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, perfect. Well, good day, everyone. My name is GiGi Tonye, and I am born in the USA. I am from Chicago, Illinois, in the Midwest, born and raised. And I am also, I consider myself a Nigerian American. I have an African American mother and full-blooded, full-blown Nigerian father. So I have the best of both worlds, I say, in the tradition and cultures of our Black and African diaspora. Yeah, just a little bit about myself. I am also a mother. I'm also a wife to be, and I am a movement artist, just for lack of better words. And so I am a professional dancer, a choreographer. I love creating through movement, the performing arts, and I'm also a fitness trainer and certified health and wellness coach, and also I'm a serial entrepreneur and business consultant. So I do a lot of different things, and I believe that everything that I have is God-given, and I'm using it definitely for the purpose of making an impact in the world the best I can. Yeah, so just a little more about myself. What can I say? My background is in healthcare administration. So I do have a master's degree in healthcare administration. I started as a natural born dance artist, so my gift came when I was born. I was not trained because my family growing up, we didn't have a lot of money at that time to be able to put me in dance class. So I did my own dance classes at home, and I learned choreography from music videos and from what I envisioned, what I dreamt, and then I invited the kids and my friends into my basement to teach them stuff. So that's how that started. But it also, like, in parallel to that, I was also very much in the health sciences. So I have a BS in biological science. Very, very much a lover of everything around health and medicine. My mother has been a nurse since I can remember, and my father has worked in behavioral health and psychotherapy since I can remember as well. So yeah, health and wellness and movement has always been a part of my life. I would say that my background as far as how I got into this, I mean, it was definitely a God-given gifting. I didn't have the ability to take classes, but I saw a lot of visions of movement, and I knew how to emulate movement with my body. And so that eventually, oh yeah, that's there. And that eventually evolved into me going to, college, of course, getting into the sciences and health sciences, and then going into the career field of health administration. And so I had my own shared experience within the corporate, we call it here in the States, corporate America, healthcare, or within the healthcare system. I've worked in everywhere from community health, private practice. I worked in hospitals. I worked in, chronic health facilities such as renal care facilities, even other specialized care facilities. And but there was a turning point for me. So everything for me was I just tell people, I could just be honest with my story. It was God-given. It was a divine alignment because this was not what I saw myself doing. I definitely came out of grad school with the intention to open my own, air quotes, healthcare facility or managing a hospital because I was already in nursing. I got my master's, so I was climbing the ladder in that way. And I kid you not, it was like a divine interruption, I would say, to my plan. And at that time, I was doing dance as a hobby. I was even teaching dance as a hobby at that point, because when I was in school, I was able to take classes and stuff. And then, yeah, when 2015 came, I got my master's and I was up for promotion. And all of a sudden I woke up one morning and I heard this voice say, all right, you need to leave corporate America healthcare. So that's when my faith journey and this thing started, and going to dance professionally. So that is what happened. And I was very scared. But I always tell people, it was necessary for it to happen then. There were a lot of things that were happening in my life, but there was a need that I just didn't know yet at that point. And so I, through much struggle, it was not an easy yes, because I was leaving a career and a salary and an opportunity to go into something that I was like, wait, artists, the starving artist thing here in the United States is a real thing, especially when it's like your thing. You're a solo with it. So I was very scared, but I did obey through much prayer and also through things just honestly, I would say at that time, falling apart. But I'm very grateful because it was supposed to happen that way. And so I did journey and left my corporate America healthcare career and went into actually studying, training, and auditioning and getting booked as a professional dance artist. So I did that for several years. I trained under amazing choreographers. I was able to tour multiple different states, as well as create works within my own city as well. Then that evolved into being a dance educator, as well as choreographer and dancer. Then again, the opportunity of being in more of the fitness and movement health space came about just a few years after that. And so all of that was a conglomerate of, I would say it was like my atomic boom of life, and things just taking a trajectory that I didn't plan. And so, yeah, and then as I started doing that, I started just seeing a lot of disparity within my particular city and the surrounding communities, because when you tour, when of course you travel, you get to see a lot of different gaps, and you can see a lot of different benefits that other communities have versus other communities. And so for me, I grew up in the South Side of Chicago, as a Nigerian American child. So I had the beautiful tradition of my Nigerian culture and roots, but then also my African American roots. And so those were always interesting dynamics. But I also saw how our communities, like Black and Hispanic communities in my city particularly, were very disproportionately disadvantaged as far as the resources for movement, performing arts resources, health and wellness, and all of that. And it started impacting a lot of, the overall outcomes within the community as far as their health, mortality rates, and all these other things. And so, and I would say the end of 2016, while I was teaching, touring, and all of that, another big bang happened in my life. And the Lord definitely told me, he's like, I need you to start a mobile dance and fitness studio. And I said, what is that? Mind you, I'm the first generation entrepreneur in my family. So I had to take another journey of utilizing something that I really did not know what to do, but there was a purpose for it. And so in January 2017, I just started the mobility of bringing dance and movement and health and wellness to communities that didn't have it. While still performing, choreographing, that journey started where one of my companies, and you saw the website, GiGi, Tonye Arts and Fitness, started. And just the journey of bringing accessible wellness to communities, and to all individuals, because every community, there's a need, I believe, of some sort. And every community, I believe, needs movement, or does need movement, not even I believe, but needs movement in some way, whether it's more artistic expression or more health and fitness related, or all that in between. And so I started doing it solo with the DJ, and bringing it to communities that didn't have it. So they didn't have, adequate grocery markets. They didn't have, health and wellness services. They didn't have dance or arts enrichment for their youth or for adults or for senior citizens here. And so I started doing something very unique, and it kind of just blossomed over the years from there. of just using the gift of and the grace of movement arts and movement wellness to help people cope and heal through life, but also have the tools that are accessible to them without the barriers of financial strain. Because like I said, that was one of the reasons why I didn't get into dance when I was younger, is because I didn't have, at that time, my family couldn't afford it. So that's what I've been doing. And so that's what I do to this day. And now I have a team of over 15 movement wellness instructors, and I have a virtual studio. I have the mobile studio where we travel. And then I do have creative wellness hubs where they get to use movement wellness and other arts and wellness tools and means to be able to promote health and wellness and healing, continuous healing, because I feel like we heal in certain moments, but there's always something. We got to heal from that or heal through that. So I feel like healing is constant, just like our body heals naturally. If we injure ourselves, there's healing that has to happen even in that instant too. So it's just a continuous resource there. But that's a little bit about me, y'all. It's early here, but I'm grateful to be online with you all. And I hope my voice doesn't sound cracky because, it is early, but I'm grateful to be alive and to hear the different expressions of arts and health today.
Thank you so much, GiGi. Thank you. Your voice doesn't sound anyhow anyway. You sound just perfect.
Oh, yay.
I mean, joining us very early in the morning. I can imagine it's really early in the morning there. You've told us, you've given us a very, very fantastic summary about yourself, the work that you do, how you've, started it, how the God-given talents, even though you give it to God, I'm sure that you put a lot of work anyway. But yes, thank you for, telling us all of that. Real quick, I just wanted to ask, you said you have like creative hubs, you've trained dancers. Have you maybe come across maybe any immigrants, people who are, creative artists like yourself? And do you maybe want to talk a little about their experience, any struggles that you go through?
Yeah. So with the way that I have my team, it's a reflection. I say that my team, I aim for it to reflect the melting pot within America, the various backgrounds, cultures. I don't really like using diversity because I just feel like diversity is also a cap on the expression of who we are as a people. But I love to give opportunities for everyone, no matter what their background is, that connects with the focus of using their arts, using their movement arts, or using their health and wellness passion to be able to help people in need in this way. And so, yes, we have, I also have a brother. Well, he's not my blood brother, but I call him a brother because he also is he's a second generation migrant from Nigeria. And so he is a part of the team. He's been a part of the team for several years. I also have some people who have migrated from South America, who have migrated from other parts of the globe as well. Because here in Chicago, it's the ecosystem. It's a very it's a pool of different ethnicities and backgrounds, and so you get every kind of individual from different backgrounds within this city. And so that's the reflection and that's the representation, because I just feel like different communities and different types of people or different groups of people should be represented, because it allows us to connect and remove those language barriers and those other type of barriers that may come to play when they're receiving the wellness services from us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. That just, ties to what we've heard from our different speakers, Ken and Mrs. Abimbola, even Victoria. They've all told us about, how to just how arts is helping people like just express themselves, especially like as people in a new space or moving from a culture that's not yours to like a new culture and trying to blend in, which is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I'll go back to Ken to, just talk about some of the works he's done as well. I can see that you've been involved in the Hospital Room UK. That's the biggest arts and health charity that supports mental health in the hospital. What sort of work did you do in that space? And, how do you think the work was received by the people there?
The hospital room project is actually a very big project. Uh, I'm just very grateful to be part of it, and not just to be part of it, but to be part of other artists, because it's not only me. There are other really renowned artists. Nengi Omuku, who is also Nigerian, incredible artist. She also has a hospital foundation called the TAAF, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to the Tau TAOH, I think so. But it's such a big project. It's still ongoing, by the way. But first of all, what we did was we did like some incredible workshops for a lot of mental patients. We organized workshops. It was such a very beautiful experience, honestly, because for me, I used to watch my dad do these kind of things, but not with art. So it was so cool that I was able to do it and almost feel like my dad at that moment, and to give some people some form of joy and excitement. Because after even the workshop, they explained that they couldn't even paint like that. Because if they did that, the hospital will feel, oh, they are having another episode. But that space was a space for them to just lose themselves and paint whatever they wanted to paint and just express themselves how they wanted to express themselves. And I liked that. I loved that experience. And so I'm very much invested in what art can do in different spaces, Many people think that artists are not socially conscious, but we are. And that's why we do what we do, because we are socially conscious. We want to see, the arts speak in speak in more places or have more languages than just selling the work. So it was an opportunity for me to do that. And now what we are heading to now, we also did a digital school that's going to be sent to all hospitals in London and in the UK. What was me teaching them how to paint a lotus flower, because a lotus flower kind of, it blooms in the day and it covers in the night and it kind of feels like hope. And it has so many contexts to it. And I taught them how to paint a lotus flower. And now what we're doing now is we're going to be painting the Hospital, which was just recently renovated. I'm going to be painting some incredible paintings on the walls that will spark some form of excitement, engagement, and inspire people who come to that space. There's always this complaint that the hospital space is a very boring and sad place, and most of the patients are really worried about that because they feel like they get worse in this space rather than get better. And from the hospital rooms and from the conversations I've had with them, the hospital rooms and project, they've explained that the previous projects they've done has kind of uplifted the space, and now the patients feel like, this is home to us. It gives them some form of like excitement, to invite their family, because the place becomes beautiful and exciting. So with the project, I'm hoping to, reimagine the space and give people some form of hope in the paintings and in the colors that I kind of use in that room. So it's still ongoing. It's a very big project. It's a very strong project, and I'm very honored and grateful to be part of it and to put my art in a different setting aside just the gallery space or the museums.
Wow. Thank you. That's wonderful, actually. I look forward to, getting into some hospital walkways where there's lots of artwork, I really feel like even as a doctor, it would just brighten your mood, you just be able to look at something, Talking about excitement, I'm going back to GiGi. I can imagine, honestly, going to a dance class. I would leave there feeling so happy. Do you want to tell us how, let's talk little about, how maybe people in the wellness space now, people, maybe the sick people, and have you done any dancing with like people who are, not physically very strong? How did they take it? What changes? What's their reaction to, dancing, especially? Because that's something that we've not really talked about a lot here.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say that anyone, whether it's in the hospital setting or another type of community health practice, or just in general, they're coming in with conditions that may not be known. I always say they may leave down, but they may come down feeling down or feeling sick, but they leave always with joy. I feel like joy is something that there's strength in it, there's hope in that. And so the thing about what me and my team and what we do is I'm very big on tailoring the programs, the services, the classes to everyone's individual need. And so it's not in the traditional way of how you go into a dance class and you gotta follow the moves and you gotta stick with the instructor or the facilitator. It is more so you come in this space, this is now your community, and we're going to tailor the class to you. So if you are coming in with the wheelchair, if you're coming in with certain fatigue or certain things, whether you express it or not, the way that we approach it is definitely that. That's funny. That was during the pandemic too. The way that we express it is and help is we're a guide and we're a support and we're engaging you. But we're not here to, for us, I can just speak for me and how we do it with my team, is that we make it where you come in and it's literally accessible to you. So in every way, the class, the engagement, even the content, because we teach so many different forms of movement. So we do 3 categories. We do dance, of course, we do fitness, and then we do wellness. So dance, it can be anything from, a follow along cardio based. You just want to keep your body moving, take breaks and end with the stretch. And, or we could do the formal training part where you're actually learning, other types of traditionalized or formal training, such as ballet. Maybe you're learning contemporary dance. Maybe you're learning, hip hop, or you're coming in for the first time learning these different styles, as well as we do cultural fusion styles as well, like Latin fusion, Afrofusion, and all of that. And then for fitness, maybe you're coming in for an actual personal training session, or maybe you want to do something that's more kickboxing related. And then, of course, wellness, stretch and mobility, any mindfulness types of sessions. And so we really tailor it. And that's what I love about how God has kind of just given me this over time. I don't take full credit because, like I said, this wasn't my plan at all. This ain't even my full background, but I'm grateful because a lot of it has been through much prayer, through trial and error, and through just faith and putting it into practice, and trusting the process. And so I just say people may leave, come feeling down, feeling, whether it's physically down or mentally or emotionally, but they leave with some form of joy. Why? Because we have been creative with how we bring the class to them and help tailor the class to them as opposed to them having to tailor themselves to us.
That's wonderful. That's actually very wonderful. This individualized way of helping people with dancing, which is, in itself cardio, which is great for the body anyway. So yes, that's really, really well done. We have a few questions actually. I was hoping we could maybe take 1 or 2 questions and then get back to it. Actually, your work sounds very similar to what Victoria Ashadu does. Victoria is an art psychotherapist as well, and she does more of, individualized treatments or sessions with people, where they can express themselves, and honestly, we've gotten some very, very wonderful stories earlier before you joined. Anyway, let's take 1 question now. Someone said, thank you so much, Ken. That's a very powerful narrative. I'm thinking this is related to the boxes, that's journey messes. Could you please speak briefly on the concept of people peeping through holes in your representations? Ken, do you understand the question?
Yes, I get asked that a lot. So when I started to make paintings, I realized that they weren't connecting to the people who were looking at it. The same way you look at a painting in a gallery or in a museum, and you just walk past. Like the person themselves do not connect to you personally. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes. So I was when I was young, I almost lost my eye, this eye. And what happened was a door handle kind of pierced it, and it cut it open, and it almost fell out. And because of the operation I had a very big eyes over here. So I had big eyes and small eyes here. And my friends used to make fun of me, and they used to mock me and call me Cyclops, and all of those young children thing. But that really messed with my mental health to an extent. But I remember my mom used to say something. She used to say the eye is the gateway to the soul. Your eye will take you to where you get to dine with kings and queens. And so when I studied art, the first thing I thought of was the eye, what is the I in reference to the person, and how can I make the person even more relatable? So what I realized is it's like getting into the train or into a bus. Everyone looks like they're taking up space. It's like running to the finish line. Everyone looks like they're taking up space. You're just trying to find your place to sit or trying to find a place to live. But the moment you stare at somebody and you have that eye contact with someone, immediately that person feels real. Immediately it hits your head. Why are you looking at me? Who are you? And the idea that you can look at someone eye to eye, which is kind of difficult in this modern day, because when you're talking, you do like that, right? You're scared to have that connection. So what I wanted to do in my work was to force the connection, that you look at the subject eye to eye. And the eye will not be just very random for you to stare and just look and go away. I wanted it to be obvious so that you stare at the person. And the moment you keep staring at the person, the moment you keep asking these questions, just like he's asked the question now, why the eyes? Because the eye is the gateway to the soul. The eye is the best way to know the truth and to know a lie. And so this is the truth of these individuals. And I decided, what, this is the way I'm going to kind of represent them from their eyes or through their eyes. And so I started to kind of cut the eyes of my subjects and make them so visible that when you look at the work, you're looking at them eye to eye, that you're kind of having a conversation with them. And that conversation can lead you to understanding what the work is about, or it can lead you to your own understanding of what life is about. So when I make the paintings and I make them, so I have two ways of making my paintings. They're either staring straight at you, or they are looking elsewhere. And if they are facing back, it's almost like you're following them in their journey. But when they're staring at you face to face, you're stuck in that conversation, and you're having the conversation with these characters in the painting. So it's a forceful way for me to make them visible, make these characters visible, make these people visible, that that they are real people. They are not just imaginations. These are actual people who are going through all of these things and who have these stories to tell.
Wow. Again, that's profound. That's just, that's deep. I've never thought about these things in this way, and I'm learning a whole lot today, and truly it makes sense. The analogy you gave about, excuse me, getting on a bus or on a train, and as soon as you actually have eye connection with somebody, it's like, okay, you've seen them and the person is actually there, which is honestly very, that's very profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's wonderful artwork also. Well done. Um, there's another question. Okay, I think it's for you, Ken. It says, good afternoon, everyone. Please, Ken, if I may ask, your art has evolved over the years into different genres, ranging from charcoal to colors and more. Why is that so? I ask because I think I had this notion, excuse me, that an artist should confine to only one genre. I'd like to hear your opinion. I'm guessing that person is an artist. So yes,
That is a very bad ideology. I used to think of that as well. Then I realized that is very bad. The art is the artist. The artist is the art. That's it. So is the story you're sticking to, is where the art is coming from. For me, that's what I understand. Is where the art is coming from that becomes, let me put it like, the signature, So for me, I'm talking about my life. And because I'm talking about my life is always going to be mine. But in in talking about my life, I get to talk about other people's lives because I see myself as a reflect in a I see myself in them and they see themselves in me as an immigrant, as a Black person, as Nigerian. So for me, I'm always so interested in the conversation and where the conversation is coming from. I'm not interested in, whether I need to stick to an idea or stick to a style or stick to a concept, because the concept will always change while the conversation changes. If you are making certain kind of paintings, when you are in certain spaces, or when you have this when you are in certain spaces or in a certain mood, and then you leave that mood and leave that space, and you want to still make that same kind of work, you are restricting the creative flow of what could come out from the conversation or the experience that you've had. So for me, I like to open myself up to learning new things, experiencing new things, trying new things, and discovering new ways I can tell my story, discovering new ways I can tell new stories, and making sure that these stories connect. This new body of work is about memory, and memory is both visual and emotional. And when you think of something, you don't think of the full picture. You can think of the shirt you wore. You might not remember the trousers you wore. You might think of the food you ate. You might not even remember the color of the table. And so when I look at images now, before I paint them, I try to look at what's important in the image. And that important part of the image, that's what I paint. And the rest of the image becomes the abstract design, which is the emotional part of the memory. So for me, I'm trying to talk about visual and emotional connection and how a moment both carries emotion, feeling, at the same time, a visual element in it. So if I was doing the charcoal work, I would not be able to evolve the narrative to this point. So I don't think it's right for artists to stick to an idea. Picasso changed ideas. Picasso went from realism, went to Africa, learned about the mask, used it to influence his new work, and then he was able to create new body of work. And he's always been changing. Clothes has always changed. So there's always change. There's always room for experience and learning, relearning, retrying new things and ideas. So I think artists should not restrict their work to a specific style, but they should understand the conversation and the language in presenting the work itself. Yeah, that's why I believe that. Sure.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. So please, artists, do not limit your expressions to just one aspect of art. So we have one last question and then we'll wrap up. I'd like to hear from all of our speakers. I'd like to hear from Victoria, from Mrs. Abimbola, from GiGi as well. How can creatives considering to migrate from Nigeria or Africa be prepared for what is ahead? Mrs. Abimbola, if you'd like to just help us with that, and then Victoria will go next.
What's the question again, please?
How can creatives considering to migrate from Nigeria or maybe Africa be prepared for what is ahead?
Well, I think to focus on what is needed. What can we do as artists to bring change or to bring relief? I think that's a very important question, and to think outside the box. When I started creating programs for people who have dementia, a few years after, in 2016, the Second University in Plymouth invited me to write that program, write it into a module for the medical school. So I've been teaching the medical students since that time. If I was stuck on the storytelling is what I know, and this is how I do my performance. I'm a creative writing lecturer. I just create books and not look at the bigger picture of how can I be useful? How can I help? Then I may be one of the people who will maybe complain about being bored with, I really need change, but looking ahead and thinking we have an issue here. There is no drug touching dementia, but there are non-pharmacological approaches that we can use, and spending a lot of time without funding, doing it off my back to create these things I wouldn't have that invitation by the university, and I won't have the opportunity to work with those medical students who have only known, the drug, pathway and not anything creative. We have medical students learning how to drum, learning how to tell stories, and then eventually, one of the universities in the country gave me funding to do research. Eventually, Finland funded my PhD to look at another type of dementia for younger people, frontotemporal dementia. These steps along the way came because I did not just focus on, oh, this is what I know how to do, and I will just do it or crash there. I was looking at how can I bring, things how can I help in the areas that people are struggling with. So for people migrating, this is what I would say. Yes, this is your art. This is what you're passionate about, but look around the world and see how you can be of help to the society. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Abimbola. Real quick, I want to introduce Jonathan Imafidor. Jonathan is from the US, so we're really sorry to have woken you up. Thank you so much for coming on here. Jonathan is a multimedia artist. Before we have Victoria give her inputs, last words about the question at hand, Jonathan, will you quickly tell us about what you do, how you, impact your environment?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for inviting me to speak on this platform. I'm sorry, I should have been online earlier, but the time difference. So I think I completely misscrewed everything. So my name is Jonathan Imafidor. And originally, I was a painter. I was painting for a number of years until I got tired of doing the same thing over and over. And I decided to move to a different direction. And so within the past 5 years, I started sculpting because I felt that I could, that would provide me a larger opportunity to express myself. But prior to that, I've been painting murals, large murals all across the United States of America. And then when I started sculpting, I just like my murals, which are focused on the public, and my sculptures too, are doing the same thing. Focusing on public sculpture, and I have a number of my sculptures across the country, and yes, that's what I do. And then in terms of materials, my sculptures, I use scrap metal, and I make sure that those scraps that I use, they are directly connected to my subject matter and what I'm trying to talk about. For instance, if I'm talking about environmental degradation, I use items that are linked to that subject, like chainsaws, mufflers, exhaust mufflers from cars, and so on and so forth. And so that is a summary of what I do and what I've been doing for the past years.
Oh, wow. I'm just, very, very thrown off my seat with some of the works that I'm seeing. These are really, really difficult things to do. How were you able to transition from being a painter to a totally different thing, sculpting, and not just sculpting with metal?
Yes, actually, it wasn't an easy transition, but you see, during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, I felt I've always wanted to transition to something experimental. But during the COVID-19 lockdown, I felt this was the right opportunity for me to, go into something else. And so I just got a very large studio space, and then I got all the equipment. I got a welding machine, plasma cutter, 3D printer, a bunch of resins. I just wanted to explore anything. But so far, scrap metal resonated more with me. So I set up my studio. I set up everything. I could not even set up the welding machine, but I was able to arrange everything to look nice. And then I walked out of my studio and I saw a sculptor who has a studio around my studio. And I said, look, hey, I want to start welding. I want to start doing something different, but I don't know how to weld. Can you just show me how to weld? And he would say, yeah, he obliged. And he came to my studio and he helped me set up my welding machine. And in 30 minutes, I was right on welding. He showed me how to do it, and I just kept going. And I told him that, look, I'm going to have my first solo show in the next 6 months, that I'm enjoying this welding. He thought I was going crazy. And then in 6 months, I had my first solo show of sculptures, and people were blown away.
Wow, I am blown away. I'm pretty sure everyone looking at this is quite blown away as well. These are very wonderful. This is so incredible. Like, I can't even believe some of them are metal.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well done. Well done. So do you want to tell us how the American public, how are they taking your work? How's this work being, what's the response to this work?
Okay, yes. First of all, I want to say it was surprising to a lot of people because it's not very common to see a painter transition in this way. Honestly, it wasn't an easy transitioning. And so people were blown away. And the fact that, I could manipulate metal to tell stories, and not just stories about, the environment. It really resonated with people, and using scrap metal to tell these stories. My first set of sculptures were a bunch of betta fish. And then from there, I went to working on larger animals. And then the recognition started coming in. People started, seeing this painter, this vibrant painter that has turned into a sculptor. And, the story just started resonating with people. And, the first competition that I put in one of my works in, it won the People's Choice, which is if you look at most of the works on the screen, you see there's this fish that has a hook in the mouth, and a very big fish. It was about 15 feet tall, and so
Wow.
people just resonated with it because it was talking about my story, my journey as an artist and as an immigrant from Nigeria. And so people could just connect. I had words written all over the sculpture. It was all scrap metal of personal effects, some of my personal items that I used to create the work. And the title of the work was I Lay Bait. More like, me transitioning. I'm in search of something that I think is missing in my art. I felt that I've had this feeling in me that there's so much more that I can do rather than just being confined to the four walls of a canvas, or, so I felt there's so much I can do. And so that piece was the opening door for me. And shortly after I won that competition, I was invited by the Republic of Turkey to represent the United States of America in an art workshop. There were about 10 countries that were invited. And I represented the United States of America. And so I created this gazelle. And this gazelle was about 15 feet tall, the head of a gazelle. And that piece particularly talked about gazelle as an animal that is going into extinction, both in the Republic of Turkey, in America, and in East Africa. And so again, that struck a chord because it was such a huge piece that I created in less than 11 days. And I used materials that I salvaged within that country. I was taken to a site where there were used ammunitions, guns, bombs, and everything. And that was what I created my work with. And so I was alluding to the fact that, you see, we have so much to do in terms of the degradation of the environment, and we should think about our actions, like in terms of the war, and the way our consumption and the way we, relate with the environment. It's really affecting us. It's creating, we are creating a heavy carbon footprint that are going to, on the long run, will be disastrous to our existence as humans, and even not just humans, even the animals and the environment. And so I was able to capture that head of a gazelle, and it was really profound. And I think those were some of the highlights of my, practice as a sculptor. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Very wonderful indeed that you're able to use, something that's actually scrap metal and transform it into very, very beautiful sculptures. Well done. Just one last one, because we are, trying to relate artworks and mental health, or, not just artworks now, but, art expressions. So do you want to tell us a little about how your work, affects, or how you've seen your work impact the mental well-being of people in your community and the community at large?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, like I said before, I delved into sculpting. I've been doing murals. I've been painting murals all across the United States. But there's one particular mural that I painted which struck a chord to me, and it just goes to show how your art can have an influence on people and their well-being. I was invited to paint a mural in a Native American community in South Dakota called Lake Andes. I'm currently working on a documentary about that, and it's going to be out soon. And this community, it's like a small country. It's like a small country within a country, and within America. And so they had their own kind of like government and all of that. But these people were really impoverished, and there were bad roads. There were bad roads. There were the country was the Native American community was submerged. It has been submerged underwater for over 8 months, and they were depressed. There was so much going on in the community. There was drug abuse. There was just too much, and every week there's always a suicide attempt or somebody, taking their lives. And it was really, really bad. And as soon as I got there, I could feel that depression. And I got into work. I was supposed to paint a mural on I think a 20 by 80 feet wall. And so, but I know I needed to create something that will bring succor to the community, and something that will reflect their pains, and, that will reflect their struggles. And so I got into action. I made my sketch, and I involved the community in the process of the creation of the mural. I called on a meeting. I told people, look, you can come join me. We can paint this together. And we did that. And within a month, we were able to create this giant, beautiful mural. And people were just amazed at how that mural was able to, transform their lives and change their lives within that period and beyond. And, it was incredible. So I was able to tell their stories on the wall, talk about their ancestors, talk about the present, and talk about the future. And in the present, I was talking about the flooding that was affecting the community, talking about the suicide rate and the depression. All of these were incorporated into the mural. And, it was the testimony was just brilliant, because people were just snapped out of that state of depression, and they were coming around, like old people, young people. They were all over the wall, enjoying themselves and just putting colors, and it was incredible. And that was really, it was really striking. At the conclusion of the mural, I was even invited by the elders of the community, and they gave me a name. They call me the windman, that I brought wind to their community, and that for years they've never had this joy and this, this transformation. And the mural is still up to today. And it was such a strong story, and it just reminded me of how much we can do with our art to uplift people, to help people. And subsequently, I've been going back there to see them and check on the mural, and it's been wonderful. And that particular mural marked the transformation from my painting to sculpture. As soon as I got back to Atlanta, Georgia, I felt that there was so much more I can do to tell my story, or to tell the stories of people, and not just even limiting myself to painting, but to even create art that can touch lives, that can minister to people in so many profound ways. And so that's when I started using materials, not just materials, but materials that have a direct connection with my work. And so, and interestingly, I'll be going back to that community in probably by next year to create a sculpture, which will be, it will be a community effort. It will be something that, it will be a sculpture, that they will contribute to in terms of materials, personal effect, things that mean a lot to them. And so, and I've itemized different cities that I'll be doing such projects within the next couple of years. And so, yes, so that was an interesting story I thought I should share with you guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jonathan. That's honestly just amazing. The fact that you're able to bring the old people, the young people, bring everyone out to that kind of joint exercise. That's really amazing. I look forward to seeing more of your works as well. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just going to run back to Victoria to tell us, and also I'd like for you to maybe later tell us, give us any advice for anyone who is trying to, migrate into another space. It might be maybe from Nigeria to the US to America, Canada, or even the other way around. I'd like for you to just take some time to think of what you'd like to tell them. Also, Victoria, I'd like for you to just give us tips or any final words on anybody, people who are trying to migrate as a creative. What challenges should you anticipate? How can you settle better in a new space?
Oh, that's a really interesting question, because I think migrating affects everybody. Everyone wants a better life, and it's such a political, you know, it's kind of like a political bullet, if you like. But one thing that I would say to people who are thinking of migrating anywhere, maybe from Africa to Europe or vice versa, is educate yourself, know your history, know who you are, know what your ancestors achieved before the very chaotic, rude interruption. Because I think the stories that we are told is that, you know, our history started when we were interrupted, and that's a lie. Our history goes way back. You know, we're the founders of civilization, but a lot of people don't know that. A lot of young people don't know that. I went to Nigeria recently, and a young person was doing one of their curriculum, actually, literature at school, and they only teach them European literature. And my mind was just blown away. I was asking, what about this person? What about this? Oh, I don't know. I don't know about this person. I don't know about that. They're learning about Romeo and Juliet and, you know, European. And I was really blown away by that. And I think it does us a disservice when we don't know who we are, and then we come into a space that was created without us in mind, and then we are trying to navigate those spaces. It can affect your mental well-being. It can be very isolating. So I think just learning history, your people's history, your ancestors' history, because your ancestors are alive in you. They're not these, evil, barbaric people. They're alive in you. So we need to, go back, learn about them, learn about what they achieved, learn about who they were, because that's where your superpower is. And once you've got that, then you can navigate in any space. Anywhere you travel to, you've got the grounding, and that grounding is from, it's kind of like you're sitting on the shoulders of those who've gone before you. And that gives you grounding, it gives you confidence, and it allows you to be able to explore other spaces with confidence, knowing that you belong anywhere, even if you're perceived to not fit in. You write your own story, you create your own rhythm, you can take up space wherever you are. It becomes easier to do that when you know who you are and you know from where you've come. Then you disregard other people's negativity towards you. If they, people think, oh, right, you don't fit here, then you can say, well, actually I do, because this is my space, and if you don't like it, you can move out the way. And I think the confidence comes from knowing who you are, and that's I think that's the advice I would give anybody, is once you know that, then that transcends into everything. It transcends into art that you make. It transcends into the books, the sort of books that you gravitate towards, and the sort of stories that you create for yourself and others. It comes from that self-realization, self-awareness, self-knowledge, and learning about your real history and not what's been thrown down your necks. That's the premise that I would come from. And then it takes shape.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you. I've also learned a lot from that. Not even being a creative myself, but just as a person, just educate yourself, know where you are from. Real quick, GiGi, I want you to give us, some input. We have to wrap up very soon. So I want to hear from GiGi, I want to hear from Ken, and then I want to hear from Jonathan, and then Mrs. Abimbola is going to wrap it up with a little story activity. So yes, real quick, GiGi. Give us your 2 cents for creatives who are planning to migrate back and forth, however.
Yeah, so I loved, I cannot recall who mentioned that migration happens everywhere and in different moments, whether it's on a broader scale or more uh, internally or even within your own local ecosystem. Of course, I'm born and raised in the United States. My father was a first generation migrant from West, actually River State, so he's from the River State of Nigeria. But I can speak on from two perspectives, doing migration within your own ecosystem, because in the United States, it's funny, it's called the United States, but it's all individualized state, local government with the overarching government. That's a whole nother story for a different day. However, the United States is what it's called right now. And in that, it can be very siloed, meaning states and how different things are ran can be very different from other states and things and how their systems are. So I can speak of just me, even in the process of migrating from state to state or within local communities to other communities where there's different types of systems. I want to definitely piggyback off of what Victoria said, is educating yourself. So being aware of even, and not from a compromising perspective, but just being educated and aware of what is the local government and the systems are, because oftentimes what I have encountered, especially if you are on this artistic journey, there is still this barrier right now, or there's a little bit of resistance to the respect of artists, especially with certain types of art. I can just attest to that within my own experience, doing dance versus doing visual art versus doing multimedia art versus doing written, art versus all these different things. And I think that it's important to just be educated on what the systems are saying so you can know how to work the system to your advantage and use what you know from the knowledge of it to be strategic, and how you will get your artistic voice and you will do your initiative, and then be open-minded to how that comes about. Because like I said, depending on where you migrate to, depending on how things are set up, there can be different barriers. I think Ken mentioned the barrier right now with, the situation going on with the passport and going into one territory versus other territories. And so those are all things that I would just encourage as well, just that level of education from your roots, from where your ancestors have come from, where the shoulders that you are standing on, the pillars and the foundation, but then also being very aware and present to what the local systems are speaking or trying to speak, and what those barriers are, and how you can position yourself to either leverage whatever is happening in the system to your advantage of being that artist and letting your art freely speak without those resistance, or being able to change the system. I'm a big person of, hey, you can be the one to help change the way that things are done, because things are not meant to stay the same forever. And just being brave with that. So I wanted to attest to that as well in agreement.
Thank you, GiGi. Thank you. So yes, we've heard educate yourself, use the system to your advantage, hijack the system, literally understand the local system around you. Let's quickly, we have 2 minutes left. So yes, please, Ken, if you can tell us in 30 seconds, give us tips on how to, how to settle better in a new space. And then Jonathan, and then Mrs. Abimbola wraps up with our story. Thank you. Please, 1 minute each.
Okay, very fast. Okay. I'm actually holding my exhibition in Germany, and the title of the exhibition is called I Belong Here. And it's just that feeling that, I belong here, this place is home. Yeah, like the doctor said, it's a feeling. Home is a feeling, it's not a place, So, and while I was doing the exhibition, I was building the exhibition, I started doing interviews of certain of my friends, and everyone was talking about Yeah, and everyone was talking about how to build home. So one thing they said, this is from everybody's perspective, is I also learn, do all everything, but also find a community, because find people who are alike. I came to London. The first time I came to London, I was alone. So I felt so detached from the system and from this place. Then when I started finding friends and people who were alike, who thought like me, who had the same issues, I started to feel a bit more at home. I started to feel like I was needed and I was wanted. So find the community that you belong in and kind of find friends wherever you are, and you'll find strength and power in that place.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, so we've had educate yourself. GiGi gave us understand the community where you're in, where you're moving to, and then Ken has said to find a community, make it your own home. Let's hear from Jonathan real quick, please. We have 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so well, I think migrating is actually a very tricky one because me as an immigrant myself, it wasn't the easiest of choices to make. Number one, you should understand the fact that as an artist, you're already disadvantaged in terms of being able to make a living for yourself, And like in America, I think about 20% of artists earn a living from from their art. Just 20%. That means 80% don't. And so you, as an immigrant, you are coming to struggle with that 20%. And so it's really tough. And then when you come to a new environment like this, you don't know so much about it. Just like what Ken said, find your community. But when you get here, you need to survive before you can even start creating your art and doing what you really want to do. And so it's really tricky. And so I would still say, like, I will stick to what like Ken said, find your community, and that's what I did. I found my community, and then I try to stick out. For instance, different parts of the country, there are different kinds of art that they embrace. For instance, it's not very popular to be a representational artist in places like New York or even Atlanta. But I was able to find a community and carve a niche for myself. And so I knew that if I was going to be a representational artist, I have to stand out, and that's what I did. And it took a while, before people started embracing what I do. But it's really tough to go to a new environment and begin to thrive almost immediately. It takes a while, and like I said, you must understand that you are struggling with people that are already here, thousands and hundreds and millions of artists that are struggling to make a living for themselves, struggling to survive. And if you can't take care of your basic needs, trust me, you will not want to go into the studio to create. Because it's completely different. The way we operate in Africa or Nigeria is completely different from the way they operate here. You have to pay your bills, you have to pay your rent monthly, you have to pay your phone bills monthly, and you have to always be on your toes. And when you understand that, you will, as soon as you get here, you begin to make the right decisions and begin to understand where you should, belong as soon as possible. I think that's my two advice.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. All right, I'm going to leave the floor to Mrs. Abimbola, and then Mr. Kunle can take it from there. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, did you say I have 1 minute to tell a story?
Yes.
Well, it'll be a straightforward one. One thing I usually say to my students is thinking outside the box can save your life. So this is not a storytelling performance. There's no drum, nothing. So I'll make it very quick. Once upon a time, a smuggler went into the border and he took his donkey and straw. He always met a border policeman there who will accost him, and he will push all the straw down from his donkey, trying to look for the contraband, because he knew he was a smuggler, but he always, never, ever had he found anything. He would search and search and search and found nothing. Many, many years after this, custom officer had retired, he then met this smuggler at a party, and he called him. Hey, man, hi, do you know me? Yes, I know you. I'm the body. Yeah, I know you. I knew you were a smuggler, and you always smuggle something. I searched and searched your straw, never found gold, never found anything. What exactly were you smuggling from your village to the other and from your town to the other? And this smuggler looked at him and said, donkeys.
Okay.
Never thought it was donkeys.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was very, oh my gosh, I was hoping to hear something like diamond. Thank you so much, Mrs. Abimbola. That's an amazing story. All right, Mr. Kunle, I'm going to leave the floor to you. Thank you so much to all our speakers. You've been really amazing. We have learned a lot from you.